problems. I forgot to press the button. So I got the introduction, but I forgot to press the button. Hello, and welcome to Ask Karl G. My second live in 2 days, and I've even arrived on time, so I'm particularly good about that. Of course, I must say hello to everybody watching on replay. Obviously, more people watch on replay because we're all busy in the day. I find this time of day is really good. Just had lunch, and on these short days, you've got to kind of like get yourself together at what, 4:30 till 5:30. So any later, and I might run into that time, then I won't be able to shut down the yard. So this is just perfect for me. I hope it's perfect for you. So we got a question yesterday, which I'm very pleased about. If you've got a question, then pop it into the comments. And the question is the title. Let me just read the question. Let me just show the question. The question is, what would you say to someone that hasn't sat on their horse for over a year due to the fears of what doesn't happen? How do you combat procrastination? So we're going to be answering that. And then after we've answered that, we're going to have a look in. Oh, I've got my green screen on, so you can't see that. Look, my book's green. Look at that. That faded out. I should have a little photo of it. The Little Book of Horse Sense, my latest book, and it's got all my phrases in. I'm just going to move this camera back a bit because I seem a little bit large on the screen there. I'm hoping that my audio is coming through, that you can hear what I'm saying. You have to excuse me looking down at my computer there because kind of a bit weird to remember to look at the camera. I haven't done lives for a bit, and you've got to get back into the swing of it. Quick bit of housekeeping. We've just printed off the vouchers for Christmas, the Christmas gift vouchers, because we've got new gift vouchers. So we've had to design and print those off. So that's a Rider Confidence for kids. That's going to be available in a voucher for Christmas. The Confident to Canter Camp 1 or 2 day course. The 1 day course is just the Confident to Canter, but it does require that you have done recently the Rider Confidence course, because you're never going to enjoy yourself running up and down the track if you've still got the what ifs. What if I fall off? What if it rears? What if I lose my balance? What if I'm not balanced? All that. So that's what we cover in the Rider Confidence course that we hold at our stables here. So on the 2 day Confident to Canter, we do the Rider Confidence first, so that we're not thinking, oh, what if it rears? What if I fall off? What if I lose my balance? And then we can just get on with the running up and down the track. If you haven't done the Rider Confidence recently, that's why we run the 2 day course, which is Rider Confidence and then Canter. So we've got vouchers for both of those. And then we've also done a voucher for Guns and Horses, which is our shooting guns off horseback. Keep an eye on the Facebook page. Obviously, we'll be putting those up. There's a little bit of promotion as we create them, as we get them delivered. So that's all very exciting. We're entering the dark period. Have you noticed we're entering the dark period? Oh, look, hang on a minute. Oh, I'm just reading this comment. Lovely. I've always got to check the comments just in case suddenly it all comes out going, your audio isn't working, your audio isn't working. So I'm assuming it is. You can put an A1 in for audio, A1 if it's all clear, and if not, put a little critique and I'll see if I can do something about it. Done all I can. I've got my posh mic here, so it should be good. Yes, we've entered the dark period. So the good news is it doesn't get much worse than this. The sun will continue to set earlier until the 18th of December, when it will start getting lighter and lighter. In fact, because I'm an optimist, I look forward to the 10th of December, which is when it's at its darkest. In other words, it's not going to get any worse, and then it stays at 350 or there and thereabouts or around that minute for 8 days, and then it's 3:51, 3:52, and we're on our way to summer. So that's only December the 10th, and we're on November the 8th. So we haven't got long to go. Personally, I find this time of year is the best because you can just visualize what you want to do next year, how you want to make use of the year will be there before you know it, and get those things started. Go to those classes, get yourself sorted. Now's the time to do it. There's nothing going on. Train your horse and then hit next year running. Marvelous. So vouchers are coming. That's one thing that's going on. The Confidence for Kids 4 days that we've put them on is already full up, so we're needing to put on more dates for that. The Ultimate Rider Confidence online deep dive psychology, a deep dive into the psychology of riders and everything that's been holding you back, and it does mean everything from every excuse that anybody's ever made why they're not getting on their horse. I've done an online course which will deal with getting bullied at the yard, having too much information coming from too many people, everybody telling you you're doing it wrong, being frightened of your horse, not having enough money, not having enough time, not having a goal, not knowing why you're on horses at all. What other reasons are there that you haven't got on your horse? But we look at that in deep psychology, and I am currently offering that for half price. So just send me a inbox on my Facebook. I've kind of fallen out. Has anyone else found this? Have you fallen out of answering your emails? So I've got so many channels of communication open, and somehow when you talk to me on Facebook, it just in the messenger, it just seems to start a natural conversation really quickly. And I seem to get a lot more done a lot more quickly than email. So if you want any of these courses that I ever mention, then just chat. Let's chat. I think that's all the housekeeping. What going there? Lovely. Thank you, Facebook user with your anonymous name saying A1. And we'll get on with it. I think the first thing we're going to do is answer the question, and I've forgotten the name of the person who sent me this question. Crumbs. But anyway, this is the question. What would you say to someone that hasn't sat on their horse for over a year due to the fears of what doesn't happen? How do you combat procrastination? It's quite a big subject, actually. But it breaks down. It breaks down into something really simple. Really simple. You should be spending 80% of your time enjoying the things that you can do on your horse, and 20% of the time progressing in bite sizes that a 7-year-old version of yourself could put up with. So when you're thinking, how much do I have to break down these bite sizes? It all depends on your panic stations, your fight and flight, the primitive part of your brain that responds and feels disconnected. You know, the way that people say, I know I can do it, I don't feel that I can do it. And there's that disconnect. Well, the feeling part is your primitive brain that's responding with fear, anxiety, depression, blah, blah, blah. And we all know that that is a childish part of your brain. If you go out and get really angry at someone and shout at them, you have to come back half an hour later and go, oh, sorry about that, I was just being childish. We call it childish. We know it's childish. So when you're breaking things down into bite-sized steps, it has to be broken down into what your internal 7-year-old can put up with. Any more than that, and you're not just going out of your comfort zone and learning something new, you're getting really quite frightened, having to pull on your brave pants instead of having your trained, that's not pants, is it? Let's make it a polo top. I'm trained polo top. And you'd much rather be trained than brave. There's no point being brave. So when you decide that you want to work on what you can't do yet, you've broken it down into what 7-year-old can do, which hopefully takes the pressure off. Plus, you should spend, and here's a should, lots of little phrases about the word should, isn't there? But you should spend, I can't avoid it, 80% of your time doing the things that you can do and you enjoy. Because if you don't spend the majority of your time enjoying your horse, well, no wonder you don't want to get on it. I've got this little story that I tell. So I do this little trick called Roman riding, where you get two horses. Can I just hang on? I'm going to get rid of this question for a second because it's kind of in the way. How do I hide that? There. Hey. So I do this thing called Roman riding. Here's my impression of Roman riding. Two little horses, that's their ears. And you stand on the two saddles, and it's actually driving. It's driving horses. So it's like driving a pair, but you're stood on the saddles and you go round and round. And there's a period at the start of the year where I haven't done this particular trick for ages, and I forget my perception. When you actually stood on horses, it's quite high up, and I forget that perception. So when I get up there, I'm a little bit scared every year, and I've been doing it for 10 years, 15 years. So I should be used to it, but you've got to allow yourself that amount of skill fade, and especially because I mentioned this because you put in your question that you haven't been on your horse for a year. I regularly don't do Roman riding for 6 months. We finish the last show and then I don't get on again until it's time to start preparing myself for the next show. So the point is that you've got to be prepared for skill fade. There's nothing to read into it. There's nothing to read into, therefore you're a rubbish rider because, hey, presto, the nerves are back. They're going to be back. But the answer is to enjoy yourself at the level that you can do. I can do lots and lots. I can gallop along the beach quite happily. I know that I'm saying that because that's a lot of people's dreams. But if you think you're only going to be happy when you're galloping on the beach and that your pleasure will be at some point in the future, well, you're wrong. Because when you get to that point in the future, you're in the habit of making your pleasure in the future. So now you'll be cross that you're not galloping in the surf, or that there'll always be something else. But at some point, you need to enjoy what you can do. I'm really fond of going around my arena, and we're just going large at an extended trot, and we're scooting along. I call it scooting. We're scooting along, trot, 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 and I pull a little teardrop shape at the end of the arena to change the rein. And of course, you've got to change your leading diagonal. And to change your leading diagonal, you can either go sit with a little bump, or you can stand in your stirrups and go stand, and that's kind of smoother. And it's a sneaky little way of changing your leading diagonal without giving it away. You know, you can sort of disguise it, and it's smooth and it's quick. So as I'm slinging this teardrop shape in order to come back down the same side, as I go around, I do a little stand, and if it goes well, which it usually does, you're slinging around and nobody notices. When I say nobody notices, nobody's there. There's only me there. But it's a swish little move, and it makes me chuckle. And I'm going up and down, and we're going up and down the same side, trying my little stand while I zoom around the teardrop shape to change the rein. And I'm thoroughly enjoying myself. I can go galloping on the beach, but my enjoyment is now. which is what I'm trying to get across, is 80% of your time with your horse should be enjoying what you can do now. And it doesn't matter where that level is. I've just been talking about trotting down the long side. You know, that's not so hard. And it is quite a long way from galloping on the beach, but I enjoy both. And there was this one time I got this horse. What was he called? He came from Spain, Gibraltar. And he came from Spain, and I don't know what was wrong with him, but he was terrified, poor little lamb. And he'd hold it together, and then there'd be some shift of weight or something, and he'd bolt off. There they are, and we go round and round the arena. And when your horse bolts in the arena, all you have to do is keep your mind in your hands and keep steering, because as long as you don't crash, there's actually no problem. And round and round and round you go. So anyway, that's where we were at. And after probably about 5 weeks, we'd got to the stage where I could make little shifts and mistakes and bumps and normal stuff, and he was still on edge, but he wouldn't bolt off, because basically I need to get him back to a walk, back to trusting me, and then we'll move on from there. So I was quite pleased after 5 weeks of this thing being absolutely mental. And I suspect they'd been riding it through force in Spain, getting that extremely responsive thing, because I've seen them. I've seen some people out there. And you could have ridden it through force, but that's no good to me. We do trick riding and horseback archery, where you let go of the reins altogether. The horse runs off, and you've got to mentally be on top of your horse. So mentally, you're telling the horse, I'm still there, and you're still in charge, even though you've let go of the reins completely. So it's no good to me having a highly responsive, really tight, yank it in the mouth, force it to do what you want, big spurs horse. Sure, it looks very flash, but it's not my style at all. So anyway, we've got to come back to walk. So we got back to walk, and I could make a few mistakes, a few little shifts of weight, and anything that previously would have sent it off, and we were doing all right. I was very not relaxed. It was a dynamic thing. I was like, you will walk forward where I say. We're not just aimlessly going, and I am holding you with my legs. The temptation is to take your legs off, isn't it? When you got a horse like that, you're like, oh, I've got to take my legs off. But of course, then if your legs accidentally bump in, then whoa, you're off again. So I prefer to have the feeling I've got you. My legs are around your rib cage. I'm going, it's all right. I've got you. I'm moving you here. I'm moving you there. I've got you. I've got him with my legs reassuringly. I've digressed. So the point I was getting to was, we then had a rider confidence class, and at the end of the day, we have all questions, anything that is personalization or contextualization to you. And this lady said, I've got this horse, it's extremely reactive and it bolts all the time. And all I can do so far is get it to walk round. And I went, oh, I've got the same thing happening now. And the difference was, I was super pleased, thinking that I was really a super mega horseman, having convinced this horse that it doesn't need to bolt off and we could walk around the arena. I was really quite, check me out. She was doing exactly the same thing and just feeling awful. I thought, how interesting. And I think it's because she felt that her pleasure or enjoyment or pride in herself would be in the future when she's galloping along the fun ride and or whatever it is she wanted to do, or winning the competitions, or coming home with the rosettes and this and that. And we would do the same thing. She felt awful. I felt fantastic. And as far as I can tell, the only difference was my enjoyment was now, and her enjoyment was some random place in the future. And I promise you that when she gets to that place in the future, if that's the way you think, then your achievements will crumble to nothing, and your happiness will be in the future. How could I be that happy on the one hand just walking around keeping this thing calm, and the other example I gave, doing my little scooting around with my little stand, I really don't have the pressure. I really don't have the pressure. And 80% of what you do should be scooting around. Yes, I can do much more than scoot around changing the diagonal. Sounds silly now that I say it, it's so simple. But I do thoroughly enjoy it nonetheless. Could you imagine if my happiness was in the future when Gibraltar was behaving well and we were doing fun rides and going down the beach? That means, I mean, that's going to take 8 or 9 years. That means I'm not enjoying myself for 8 or 9 years. And it's a bit of a grind, isn't it? That's a bit of a grind. So one of the main bits is to enjoy yourself at the level that you can do and get that enjoyment. There was once a time when I couldn't pick up a back foot because I was scared I was going to get kicked. And I learned how to do that. And then I was quite proud of myself for doing that. And all these little tricks, and now it's so nothing that it hasn't got any relevance at all. But at one particular time, it was really quite something. The other thing that, oh, shall I put that question back up again? Yes, let's do that. Oh, does it come back up? Oh, no, is that wrong? What would you say to someone who hasn't sat on their horse for over a year due to fears of what doesn't happen? How do you combat procrastination? The other thing, over the fears of stuff that doesn't happen, if you're enjoying what you can do, and this is where people say, well, get on your horse, sit there for 5 seconds and then get off. At some point out there in the world, that is where somebody's at. If you've had a break, if you've had a gap from horses, either because you've had too much work on, or had a baby or a new puppy or something like that, and you've had a break and you've had that skill fade and it feels a little bit weird, well, you've got to allow yourself for that without reading anything into it. It doesn't mean that you're rubbish. It just means that life's happened. And there's nothing wrong. There was a time when you were doing what you're doing now when you were first learning. So the fears of the things that didn't happen, you were still dealing with them when you were first learning. And you sat on the horse for 5 seconds. The first time you climbed on the horse and it was all wobbly and you were thinking, where's the handlebars? And then you got off and you were like, oh, that's quite good, that. I think I'd like to do that a bit more. So you've already been through this experience. You've got to enjoy what you do and then progress on in bite-sized bits. The other half to that, of course, is what are you pressing on to? What are you developing to? Because when we first were like, I'm going to get a horse, there was some reason why you got a horse. So let's say, now I have to think back quite a long way to remember why well, first of all, I was going to get myself a snigging horse for pulling trees out the woods. So I wanted a draft horse. And then when I got the job at the jousting company, I wanted to do jousting. And my little dream was like, oh, I want to be like those guys running up and down. And don't they look cool rearing? And then, of course, I wanted to do the films. And these are all the goals that I wanted. Now, you might have, if I said to you, what was your goal? What was your dream when you first decided that you wanted? When I first decided that I wanted a draft horse and couldn't pick up a back leg, I really wanted to do working in the woods, and this is something that I thought I could do. And that's the dream that pulled me on. That was my goal. And you might have to think back to last century when you were working in the spa for a pound an hour. And when they said, why are you saving up for a horse? You didn't turn around and say, well, I'm saving up for a horse so that every 6 weeks I can go around the lanes going, I hope I don't die. I hope I don't die. That wasn't it, because you wouldn't have saved up your pound an hour. You had your dreams of whatever it was that you wanted. I'm going to go and work in the woods. I'm going to go and work in the films. I'm going to go and ride badminton. I'm going to go and live with the Whitakers. I'm going to go and be a stockman in Australia. I'm going to join the mounted police. I'm going to join the household cavalry. You got these ideas of what you wanted to do, and to be honest, if you'd have saved up your £1,000 and bought your little horse called Rocky and headed off to the mounted police and headed off to do the jousting and headed off to do the pulling trees out of the woods like I did, then you would never have come across the leisure industry conversations and the frame of reference where people just constantly talk about what they can't do and what accidents might happen and how horses are dangerous, and if you haven't had an accident now, you've been lucky, and you're going to have one fairly soon because clearly the odds are against you now because you haven't been hurt, and they're aiming for your head mostly, and all these horrific things that people say. If you avoided all that, then the goals that you wanted to go to would have been in the forefront of your mind. You'd have seen your progression and you'd have moved on happily, and with setbacks, of course. Nothing's linear. It all goes up like a finance graph, up, down, up, down, up, down. But generally we go up. But the problem was when you saved your £1,000 and got your little horse called Rocky, you couldn't go straight to the film, straight to the mounted police, because you do what everybody else does, which is get your little horse and you go to the local livery yard where they're under the impression that horses are dangerous. You're lucky if you haven't been hurt, and you're going to get hurt fairly soon. The odds are against you when they're aiming for your head. You didn't know that. You turned up with Rocky with all your dreams and ideas, and then they're full of horror stories. You're like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And then when you fall off, they're full of more horror stories. They don't say, oh, brilliant, jump back on. I'm sure you're fine. They go, oh, you were lucky. Oh, you don't realize how close you came. You could have been hurt. You could have been dragged. Your head could have come off. And then your goal to live with the Whitakers and join the mounted police turns into, oh, I don't fancy my head coming off. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want them to be aiming for my head. Your subconscious isn't stupid. If you're sitting there going, oh my God, I don't want to be in this world where everybody's getting hurt by horses. I don't want to. If your goal has turned from, I want to live with the Whitakers and be a stockman in Australia, and it's turned into, I don't want my head to come off, I don't want to be really hurt, well, your subconscious will work to help you get that. Of course it will. As your goal changes into, I don't want to be hurt, it'll help you. And so when it's time to go down the stables, it will go, oh, are you sure you don't want to watch Toy Story 4? We haven't seen Toy Story 4 in a while. You might, and you'll find yourself procrastinating and not wanting to go to this future where you get hurt, understandably. So really, it's a question of why are you riding the buggers in the first place? Because if you've got no idea why you're riding them, then walking towards getting hurt on a horse because of the conversations, because of your fears, and this spiral of negativity and equimisery, no one's saying about all the things you can do. So there you go. Now you're in trouble. That might have been 40 years ago. Well, now what you're going to do, you haven't had your goal for 40 years, so you might need to sit down very quietly and think back to when you bought the 1988 calendar of beautiful Frisians running on the beach and thought, oh, I'd really like to do that. You might have to really think back and go, what did I want to do? So yeah, you need to work on your goals. There's a phrase, if the why is big, then the how is easy. If the why is big, why you're riding them, then the how is easy. If you're going to get together with some people in March and do a lovely little quadrille, you know what quadrilles are, where you do this sort of patterns in the arena, circles and figure eights and crossovers, and you don't want to let them down, and you're going to raise plenty of money for a particular charity that means something to you, chances are you're going to get out between now and February and get on your horse so that you can do a splendid show so you can raise lots of money. Your why is big. So the how is easy. Well, I better get out there. I'd better get home at a particular time from work, or I'd better make sure that the arena lights are working, or I'd better invite Sandra over so that we can work together. Do you get what I mean? I'm already putting the things in place. So if you need to work on your goals and your why, how can I say this tactfully? I happen to know of a horse riding hypnotherapist who is aware that this is the case, and he's already got a hypnosis available for purchase. Honestly, I don't mean to be a salesman, but I've already invented these products that go straight to the core of it. And if you like a hypnosis all about solidifying your goals, getting your subconscious to chew over all the, you know, people overthink. They go, oh, I overthink. This is like using your talent for overthinking, but in the positive. Where could you go? Who could you meet? What could you be part of? What activities could you try? What the thousands of paths. And I've already made this hypnosis, this goals hypnosis. It's called Ride Like You Dream Of. And I suggest you get it. It's 47 quid, and you need to write to me and I will send it to you and you can get started today. I don't mean this to end up in I'm the world's worst salesman. I don't mean this to end up in a sales ticket, but I have made these products that can help people. And that's just one of them. I could go for a whole list. There's loads of them. Tell you what, if you're watching this and you've bought any of my products, can you give me a can you just write something in the comments to help people do it? And if you want any of them, then you can either go to karlgreenwood.co.uk or just send me a message and I'll just get it over to you straight away. There you are. That's turned into a sales pitch now. Sorry about that. It's not meant to be, but it does. It can help you. Anyway, plenty of food for thought. I've been going on a long time, 34 minutes. Blimey. If you've got any questions, stick them in the comments and we'll see if we can do it. Right, we're going to finish off with a reading from my book, which you can't quite see on the screen because it's green and I've got a green screen. Let's just tell you, oh, look, there it is, The Little Book of Horse Sense. All right, I'll have to think of something next time. Little Book of Horse Sense. Here we are, look, there we are. Right, we're going to open it at a random page. Oh, crumbs. That was rubbish. I'll just have to read it to you. Every moment you are with your horse, you are training it something. That's what it says there. Every moment you are with your horse, you are training it something. You are either training it to do what the hell it likes, so that when you're walking out of the field and it charges through the gate and jars your shoulder, you're training it that. Or you're training it to walk nicely, wait, no, don't spin round, wait. And you might have to train it over a series of days where we're going to go to the gate, we're going to stop, we're going to wait, and then I'm going to turn around and let you go. So you don't know what's going on. You're training it something. And when you're walking down to the stables and it yanks across for a bit of grass and pulls you off your feet, you're training it that that's okay. You shouldn't be on your phone. So you need to train it to walk nicely. Every time you open the door, you're either training it to step back so you can put the food in, or training it that it can mug you. Every time you tie up the hay net, you're either training it that it can rip at the hay and get your fingers all caught in the knot of the hay net, or you're training it that it needs to wait until you're finished and you say, good boy, and then it walks over. Every moment that it's not that the training starts after you've got into the arena and climb on. You're building that relationship right from the start. And here's a funny little thing. People would really like to have that lovely fairy tale bond with their horse, where we've got a sort of empathy or telepathy going, and you're a unicorn and I'm an elf from a picture that I saw. We've got a beautiful spiritual bond, tra-la-la-la-la. And then they find that they can't discipline the horse. No, sorry, I got that wrong. Because discipline is for you in order to give the horse routine. If you haven't got the discipline to train your horse to walk nicely down to the stable without pulling at the grass, then your horse won't have the routine of doing what you say and everything being calm and nice and good boy. Instead, there will be the non-routine of you getting yanked about and then screaming at the horse one day and then not screaming at it another day because you and just nothing. People find that they don't want to be mean to the horse, which means insisting that the horse moves back, insisting that it walks nicely, insisting that it waits for the gate, insisting that it stands nicely to have its feet washed, insist, so that we've got a relationship like a sergeant major, where when you're with me, you're like that. And they don't want to do that because that feels even further away than this spiritual, I'm an elf, you're a unicorn, lovely friendship bond. But if you build the relationship so that I'm the sergeant major and you do what I say, and I will tell you what, I will have the discipline to tell you what I want rather than being vague and just letting you wander off and then telling you off. That's worse. So I will have that discipline to tell you exactly what I want, exactly how I want you to go through this gate. And we've built this relationship where you're like, yeah, because the horse then doesn't have to think for itself, which is a fantastic relief. I don't want to think for myself. If you want to phone me up in the morning, tell me exactly what I'm doing, that's marvelous. But I do have to think for myself. Don't like it. And horses are the same. They don't like it either. They don't want to have to think for themselves. If you can tell them exactly what to do, because you've got that relationship, that's super. You tell them what to do, they do it. Marvelous. Which means they trust you to deal with everything. And when something happens, they look to you because you solve everything. That's you. You're the sergeant major. So the horse trusts you and does what you say, which means you trust the horse. And once you've got that relationship and you've worked that relationship, then when the director says to me, we'd like this horse without reins, without saddle, with the model on it going from A to B, don't you think from one moment that I'm not in charge and I've got that horse in the eye and the horse is starting over there, walking across camera, stopping there. And then I put it on my Facebook page, and people quite rightly go, you have the most beautiful relationship with your horse. It's a joy watching you work. It's such a partnership. They trust you so much. And do you see, I've got that lovely spiritual bond that we were talking about earlier through me being disciplined to give the horse routine. And the horse found it such a relief and did what it says. And here we are, looking like an elf and a unicorn. The happiness you seek is on the other side of the work you are avoiding. Fantastic. I really enjoyed that. If you've got any questions, stick them in the comments. If you've got any comments, stick them in the questions. Thanks very much for listening. And before I go, I'll just run down the comments, try and make sure that I haven't missed anything. Oh, some lovely. Oh, look at that. My none of the names have come up of the people commenting. They all say Facebook user. We can't all be called Facebook user. There we are. I don't know why that is. Fantastic. Undoubtedly, when I get on Facebook itself, I'm on a program called StreamYard now that goes straight to YouTube and Facebook at the same time. So obviously something's gone wrong there. And I'll have to go on the actual Facebook page to find out who said what. Anyway, little book of horse sense. Get your copy for Christmas. There we are. End of the sales pitch. Bye. Thank you for listening. End stream, and then I've got to press it again down here. I learned that yesterday.